I never get sick of
Aha.
that music. I never get sick of it. It's like those, what they're called, worm, what is it, an earworm?
Earworms,
Earworm,
earworms.
earworm. I'm bopping around all the time. How are you, James?
Very well. So for anyone that's just joining us for the very first time, you are watching Speaking Business TV. My name is James Taylor, keynote speaker on creativity, innovation, and artificial intelligence. And I'm
I'm
joined
Maria
by
Frenzoni. Yeah, Maria Frenzoni, recovering speaker bureau owner. I've recovered
recovering.
just about. Yeah, well, it's a really hard business. Now working with speakers to help them to be more bookable and charge higher fees.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
We have we're going to go in a slightly different direction with our guest this week, aren't we? Because normally on the show, we have lots of speakers sharing about their ideas, their messages, and kind of helping everyone. Occasionally, we'll bring in people from the events industry side, from event bookers. But today, I'm not sure if this is possibly our first bureau person. This may be our first bureau. I'm not sure.
Well, I
Is
think
it
you
real?
interviewed me when I was still with the bureau. I think
That's true.
and I think no, we've done a couple. I think, but we've not had them a managing director before. That's quite cool.
Okay, so we're going up in the world. So our guest this week started in the speaking industry in 2012 and began as an agent handling the speaking for a range of motivational speakers from the world of sport, adventure, and military. In 2014, he relocated to Hong Kong to start the Chartwell Asia office. The majority of clients there were financial services firms sourcing experts to speak at their regional conferences. During his time in Asia, he got a lot of experience in co-brokering with US-based agencies. And in 2016, he returned to London and took over as managing director of Chartwell at that time. His role now mainly consists of handling exclusive speakers and managing the corporate speaking engagements for a wide range of high-profile economists, politicians, technology entrepreneurs, and academics. Please welcome to the show, Raleigh Addington from Chartwell Speakers.
Hello, hello, hello. Let me make you bigger. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, Maria. Hi, James. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. And I've noticed, James, I'm sure you have too, that speaker bureau people are getting younger and younger. So I know I'm getting
Police
old.
officers.
Yeah, like police officers getting younger. So tell us a little bit more about Chartwell. For people who don't know Chartwell, Chartwell has made a bit of a splash in the market, in the industry. Very high standards from what I've seen in terms of service. But tell me, what is the USP? What is Chartwell all about?
Cool. Thank you, Maria. Well, Chartwell's been around for about 15 years, and it came out of providing speakers for financial service organizations, really. Our chairman's ex-Goldman Sachs banker, and he kind of realized there was a need at the time for a sort of specialist financial service speaker agency based in London. So that's our kind of origins. And the types of speakers we work with, as James has already mentioned, are politicians, economists, and thought leaders, people who are speaking at sort of serious conferences. And a lot of the clients are banking and financial services organizations.
Fantastic. And how did you join Chartwell? How did you get into the speaking industry? For me, it was an accident. Was it the same for you?
Well, I did economics and politics at university in Exeter, and sort of quite soon after graduating, I was approached to join this firm, and it kind of ticked my boxes in terms of interests, the political side and the economics. So it was more. I've been interested in it, and I've done it for 10 years, and really enjoy working with a lot of interesting and thoughtful people, both on the event side and on the speakers.
Fabulous.
So in terms, Roy, you've been based in Hong Kong, now based in the UK, but kind of seeing the business globally. So what's going on in the market just now in terms of the kind of inquiries that are coming in? What trends are you seeing? What topics are you finding are quite hot? Because one of the things I was always impressed with Chartwell is when it comes to topics, you are right on what is happening now. And it's a very kind of, there's a lot of relevance in the kind of topics that you provide with speakers. So what's going on? What are you seeing?
Cool. Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's good news for your speakers, because I think there is a degree of pent-up demand of groups who haven't been able to get back together, organizations who haven't been able to see their clients are now putting on events and putting them on with some gusto. So we're seeing an increase in number of events. And then trends vary. I mean, for the first time, I've been receiving a lot of requests of speakers who can talk about the metaverse and explain that. Inevitably, being an organization that works with political thinkers, we're seeing a demand for speakers on Ukraine for the first time, or first time in a long time. We're seeing a demand for people who can understand, what NATO's thinking, and then typically, people do want to know about what's going on in UK politics, given the uncertainty there at the moment. So a lot of demand in these spaces, and then, as you say, emerging trends in technology are always interesting for groups that we work with, and I think that's the point about being a good speaker for Chartwell, is that you aren't just talking about what's happened in the past. You're looking forward and being able to give clients real insight into what's going to happen in the next few years. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing, James.
And what, in terms of, I mentioned you spent time in Hong Kong. What are you noticing about Hong Kong, kind of Greater China? Obviously, these are markets that are very locked down in terms of people being able to physically come into the market. But I'm also wondering, is this give an opportunity for maybe Chinese speakers who can speak in Mandarin, Cantonese, and English to start bursting out onto the scene?
I think that's the case to a point. I think there are a lot of groups in China want to engage with speakers, even though that people can't travel to the region, and so there's definitely demand for virtual opportunities there. I've got a colleague in Hong Kong who's as busy as he's ever been at the moment, booking speakers to come in, but not travel into the region, but speak virtually. I think anyone who can speak Chinese and engage with a Chinese audience and is interesting for us and for our clients. So yeah, if you've got a profile in China or you can speak the language, get in touch with us, and we'd certainly be interested in working with you and trying to place you at events in that region.
Wow, what an opportunity there. If anyone's listening, that's an amazing opportunity. Thank you, Rory. So tell me, here's a question for you. With regards to what's happening in the marketplace, you mentioned virtual in China, but what are you seeing here in Europe? What's the split now between virtual and in person? Is it coming back up?
Yeah, I mean, it's changing quite dramatically week in, week out, from, having been maybe last year, it might have been 50-50. For us, it's now sort of 70% physical again, and people want to get back in a room and have these discussions. This virtual thing is great, I think, and it's been a means to an end while we haven't been able to see each other. But the longer term shift is definitely to physical, and suddenly from what I'm seeing, and nothing can rival the sort of the impact of being on stage with an audience, and equally the discussions you have at the coffee room and the serendipitous type of thing. If you're a client meeting a group, you can't repeat that really in the virtual sphere. So I think your speakers can look forward to being back on stage more and more in the coming months and the coming years. So it's positive.
Fantastic. And what makes a speaker truly attractive to someone like Chartwell? You mentioned that obviously you specialize in politics, economics, financial services. You mentioned some of the topics. You mentioned Chinese, but surely there needs to be a certain level of experience or expertise, or maybe even fee level. Is there a criteria for Chartwell for taking on speakers?
I think it does help if they've got some experience getting paid speaking engagements. In terms of fees, our average speaker, I think, charges sort of £10,000+ to do an engagement. So you'd hope that they're already getting consistently well-paid events. That said, we are prepared to work with people who are emerging and up and coming. And if you're talking about things that are relevant, important for organizations, then I'd be delighted to have a conversation with you and seeing where you could fit with some of our clients as a speaker. And I think for us, we want you to be relevant. We want you to be topical. We want you to, from a sort of ease of working with you, we want you to be responsive, to be willing to take on engagements, to be yes, straightforward to work with. As I know you always tell speakers, the trick is to make life as easy as possible for bureaus, and that's the same case with Chartwell as it is with all of the other agencies, I think.
And when it comes to the kind of events that you're seeing getting booked just now, I noticed a big difference from 2019 when it was doing a lot of kind of almost like larger public events, so 1,000, 2,000 people type events, and obviously went virtual and everything kind of changed a little bit. But it seems to be now a lot of the events that I'm doing certainly for this year are kind of smaller, 150 more executive level, C-suite level, more focused, nicer locations, more kind of nicer off-sites that I'm seeing. I'm not seeing, and maybe that's because I'm not based in the US, but as many of those big kind of Las Vegas or big Orlando style. So I'd be interested in what are you seeing, because you work with the financial services, banking, that kind of world. So they're often a little bit different.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is a reflection of what we're seeing, and it's what you'd expect is that higher level events. And what we're seeing is that event planners have learned to record these events and spread the word in a very efficient way. So you bring in a speaker to a smaller event, but then you share it with a wider audience. And again, a lot of what I'm doing is working with speakers to work out what we want, what material we want recorded, and when we can agree to have it recorded, what restrictions we put around having an engagement shared, and that's the hybrid speaking engagement is something new and something that we've sort of been navigating at Chartwell of what it means. But I think there aren't as many gatherings of 1,000 plus people at the moment in the UK. In America, I think you're right in saying things are going ahead, and that's happening about.
What does the upsell look like for your speakers? Because I think a lot of bureaus who handle, let's say, more traditional, middle of the road kind of professional speakers out there. The upsell is everyone at the event gets books, or maybe there's some kind of webinar thing that happens before or afterwards. So you represent a lot of people who are economists, politicians, real thought leaders at the cutting edge. You mentioned metaverse there. What is the upsell from the keynote? Is it executive kind of briefings? What's kind of going on there?
It's a good question. We are an out and out speaker bureau. We don't really specialize in securing our speakers consultancy engagements off the back of speaking engagements or sort of further briefing opportunities. I mean, the best sign for me of a speaker succeeding is them getting booked again for a similar event in the coming months to perhaps a different group or the same sort of firm. So yeah, in terms of upselling, I think sometimes speakers have their own consultancy where they're able to do that, and that can be a bit of a challenge for us, if I'm honest, because if you've got your own business to promote, then perhaps you should be speaking for free or speaking for, but you've got other demands wanting you, meaning that you should be speaking. So yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, but at the moment we don't have big upsell opportunities for speakers.
So rather than kind of upselling, how do you go across an organization? Let's say you get in with a new financial services client, they come to you, you book a great speaker with them, but you see, well, this is a 10,000 person firm. How do you kind of, from a bureau perspective, how do you sell across the organization into other countries, other divisions?
Yeah, I mean, the speakers sell themselves quite often. If they do a really good job, they'll then get booked out. We do. We would always reach out to the company and say, look, you may be interested in booking this speaker again. Equally, we have speakers who what we call a sell-off. So if one speaker did a really good job last year at an event, we'll have a similar speaker who can fit the same sort of profile as the one who'd done the previous year, and then we'd bring them in. So that's why we kind of have a roster of similar types of speakers in different areas. So if it was a UK political figure, 1 year we'll know that we probably can find a similar UK political figure who can speak in a similar topic but on a slightly different angle the next year, and the same goes for technology and a lot of other areas. So yeah, that would be one of my advices when choosing which bureaus to work with, is to make sure that they have some similar speakers to you, because often, you know, when you can't do something, the other speaker can step into it, and vice versa. If the other speaker can't do it, you can fill their shoes, and it sort of keeps the world going round, and that works well for us.
Okay, I'll share some of the comments because I know James can't see because he won't wear his glasses. So let me share some of the comments we're getting. Good day. Thank you, Ty, for saying good day. Fantastic. I have a passion for financial education, financial wellness. Thank you. George, really interesting. Great. Tom Morley, yes, a glorious mix. This is about you, I think. A glorious mix of youthful good looks, focused insights, and being able to say metaverse as if he knows what he's talking about. So I think that's a compliment. And Tom's also added that it's interesting that in the UK, clients have learned to film smaller events and distribute the footage to a wider audience. That's a problem in a way, isn't it, in terms of pricing, when a client does that, where they'll film it and then want to use that footage? Because pre-COVID, we were very strict about recording. I don't know if you were too. You didn't really want the speech, the content distributed. How do you guys handle that when a client wants the footage recorded and shared?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a problem, but I think it's definitely something you need to consider when being booked, and you need to sort of take it into account. If you're going to do the speech, it could end up on social media. What we generally ask clients to do is just, you know, they're welcome to record it and keep it internally, but not to share it on social media channels. And when it sort of goes out on social media channels, that's when life becomes a bit more complicated, and we probably should, you know, would want to charge higher fees for speakers. And clients are often very agreeable to keeping it on the intranet and sharing it with their teams, and then deleting it after 30, 60 or 90 days.
Perfect. I've got another question because I'm nosy, having been in the industry before. I love to know what's a day in a life of you know, for you, like working in the speaker bureau. What's it like? Describe a day, a typical day.
Yeah, well, my day, I'll touch in with several speakers. I'll have calls with them, see what they're up to. I love hearing, you know, I love being really up to date with what a speaker's doing, and where he or she has spoken, and what news articles might have been written about them or their topics, what books they're writing. Because by being up to date, I can sound very informed when I go to event planners about what they're doing. So for me, that's a big part of my job, is knowing what speakers are doing, so that I can then update them. And then you know, once I've got the information about my speakers, I then share it with event planners. And then another part of my day is you know, negotiating the best opportunities for speakers I work with. So yeah, and making sure that they're, you know, correctly reimbursed for their work, and the contracts are watertight and things. And as you know, Maria, from first-hand experience, you know, it's when things go a bit wrong is when you can find yourself firefighting a lot. So you've got to get everything right and flush out all the details of an event before you sort of go to a contract stage, because you can end up spending a lot of time unraveling problems if you don't get the stuff right at the beginning of the process.
There's so much admin involved. It's incredible, isn't it? And you have to have a good process, and you've got to dot the I's and cross the T's. You've got to be a detail person, which actually in a way goes against being sort of like a salesperson, because salesperson often it's about the relationship rather than the detail. You have to do both in a bureau, but not only that. Actually, I think it's not very much selling in a bureau. You're informing, you're telling people, you're informing, you're not needing to sell, because the speakers sell themselves, because they are, you know, their content is so good. If they've got it right? It's actually not difficult.
No, but you're putting people on their radar. You've got to put people ahead of other, put our speakers in event planners' names, because it is a competitive world out there, and there are lots of other bureaus, you know, reaching out to event planners, and so you've got to make sure that you as a bureau and your speakers are at the forefront of event planners' minds. So might not be sales, but it's informing is a good way to put it.
I'm assuming when a client comes to you, you're maybe putting 2 or 3 different speakers to forward to them for a particular brief, or I maybe completely wrong on that, maybe just one. But if it is multiple speakers, what would give the speaker an unfair advantage to win against their competition of 2 other speakers?
I mean, a profile is key. You know, if the event plan has already heard of the speaker or read his or her book and engaged, you know, you're kind of ahead of the game. If you do have the profile, if you're associated with a company even that the event planner might know, that helps. You know, there's no getting away from that. And then if if everything's up to date, you've done something interesting, eye-catching recently, then that all really helps. And I think, to set yourself out from the crowd, you need to be as relevant, as up to date as possible. And you can't just, you've got to be putting yourself in the shoes of the event planner and talking about what the event planner wants to hear about, not necessarily what you think that is interesting. And I'm sure Maria and James, you tell your speakers this the whole time.
Absolutely. There's a nice message here. Unfortunately, we can't see the person's name, but they're saying good morning from the US. So hello over there across the pond. Thanks for going live this morning. Any advice for speakers when it comes to choosing an international bureau to work with?
You've got to choose the bureau that's the right fit for you, and that you think will work hard for you and represent you properly. I don't think my advice is to reach out to several international bureaus and speak to the principals there and see if they get you and engage with you, and if they're prepared to work hard with you. There are multiple very reputable bureaus out there. So it's about finding somebody who's really going to be in your corner, you're going to enjoy working with, and who's going to go out to bat for you in an aggressive and effective manner. That would be my advice.
Maybe that person asked that question, if you could, when you say international, is there a particular region, a part of the world that you're thinking of, or a particular country that you're thinking of? Because international just sounds big. It's like, and I think LSB, I think, is the only, what you class maybe as a global speaker bureau with offices in different countries. Or am I wrong on that, Maria?
At the moment, I suspect there are others. There's definitely some bureaus hot on their tail. Chartwell's doing very well. They've got offices. Where have you got offices? You've got offices in Hong Kong, London, where
Dublin,
else? US?
Dublin and Dallas. Yeah. So we do have an international footprint, but LSB, leading authorities are obviously, have a presence here in London.
I suggest actually, I'd like to give a bit of advice to our LinkedIn user. Go to iasbweb.org. That is the International Association of Speaker Bureaus, and have a look there. And if you're interested in Europe, it's easbweb.org, which is the European Association of Speaker Bureaus. And of course, Chartwell are members, because you have to be a certain level of turnover and certain criteria to be a member of these associations. So that's it. I think you've given us incredible amounts of value here, Raleigh, and I know you're very busy. What's the best way for people to contact you? And do you want people to contact you, or are you super busy? So the website is chartwellspeakers.com. If they are contacting you, I imagine you're very interested to hear from any clients looking for speakers in the political, economic, financial services and metaverse area, technology area. With regards to speakers, are you happy to be contacted, or are you too busy?
No, I'm never too busy. I love connecting with people and hearing what people are doing. Do get in touch. My email's on our website, and it's always interesting to hear from people. And if I can't help, I'll certainly try and point you in the right direction, or it's well worth also having a conversation with Maria and James. And I might end up sending you back to talk to them as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. Listen, thank you so much. It's been invaluable. We're going to release you and let you go.
Great.
And thank you.
Thank you both. I've really enjoyed that.
Thank you, Raleigh. Thanks so much. Wonderful.
Have you
wow.
noticed? Look,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. You're bigger than me. Have you noticed? Here's something interesting. So when we have speakers on as guests, and listen, speakers, this is a comment here for you guys. When we have speakers on as guests, we probably get through 4, maybe maximum 8 questions because they expand. He's so succinct and to the point, right?
Yeah.
His answers, right? Why? Because when you're actually selling, it's all about listening and not about speaking. You noticed that, right?
I was interviewing someone yesterday who he was the CEO of Cirque du Soleil. He's now the executive vice chairman, and his background is in corporate PR. And doing the interview with him, it was like every line was like boof. It was so precise, so well formed, and I thought that's great media training in that style. And maybe I need to go on one of those courses. I know I'm a speaker. I would speak forever, so maybe I'm not as succinct as I should be.
Well, I'm learning to be like you, actually. I'm not as succinct. So we had another question, which unfortunately came in after, which was, what is a good strategy for an American speaker to break through into the European and Asian markets to obtain speaking opportunities? That's not a short answer. If you want to contact myself or James, we probably need to have a phone call with. That's not a short answer to do, but maybe we'll do a whole show on something like that potentially.
Yeah,
you never know.
I would say on the Europe, just from my experience, this is just me being a speaker doing that. When you think about Europe, don't think about Europe. Think about the individual countries, because Germany is
Totally different.
Is very, very different to Spain, and very, very different to Italy, UK. Likewise with Asia, I would say you can go like bureaus that are maybe based in Singapore, Hong Kong, and they have a little bit kind of wider range, but you kind of have to go in thinking them a little bit different. I guess and it's different because obviously for many American speakers, you have this one language, this one thing, and it's very easy to move across from state to state, and you can build a speaking career in both Texas and in Florida. But in Europe, it's a little bit more challenging sometimes.
Yeah, and there's a lot more to it. There's the language, there's the cultural issues. There's also the fact that you have to appeal to an international market, and that requires changing your positioning sometimes. So happy to have a chat if you'd like to get in touch. Great question. So meanwhile, what we're trying to do when we've had a guest is we're trying to unpack what we've learned and give a bit of a summary, aren't we? And give a bit more of a take. So what did you learn today from Raleigh, who I've been calling Raleigh forever, and realized that it's Raleigh? How appalling is that, right? And he's such a gent. He never corrected me. He never ever corrected me.
I was calling him Raleigh, as in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's my fault. So we both got it wrong. No, the thing I was thinking just there was, this is a great interesting thing about bureaus. There's a big variance in the styles of bureaus out there, from the more celebrity style to something like Chartwell. There's more focused around the kind of like smart meetings. It's like, there's economist type events, or the Davos, style, or kind of those things. So I think it's kind of interesting to, as a speaker, just to kind of get to feel out who are those bureaus that align. Because I know that I'm with about 30 different bureaus, but probably only 5 or 6 of them are the ones that just generate all the work. And there's a simpatico with them, and there's some similarities.
Absolutely. And that is an enormous takeaway. And what's wonderful is that he told us, this is our area of specialty. These are the price brackets we start from.
Yep.
These are the clients we work with. This is our niche. And whenever you're deciding to work with a bureau, you have to do that research. You have to find out, are they a good fit? And because if you get rejected, it's not necessarily because there's anything wrong with you, but you're not a fit for their clients and their market. Yeah. And also what's interesting is the question you asked about, the upsells, etc. Every bureau is different. So there are bureaus like London Speaker Bureau who do want to do that upsell, who want to do the speech, then they want to do boardroom advisory, consultancy, executive education programs. And then there are bureaus that are the pure speaker bureau model. So there's so much variety. And the problem with many speakers when they're trying to get listed with bureaus, they treat them all the same. And you can't do that.
I did think that was interesting. I was surprised. I thought Chartwell would have an obvious upsell into executive briefings, and then upsell into high-end consultancy. So that was something I learned on this one, that they really very much focus on the keynote, that speech.
And you know why? Because that will keep them busy enough. That will keep them full in terms of work, because there is that much work out there. There really genuinely is. And so often a bureau won't expand and do more because they can't take it on. They're super busy, especially, you know, when they do good work, because the clients, and I've been the other end of it where I've booked speakers from them, because, you know, each bureau has exclusives, and I've booked speakers from them, and their level of service is phenomenal, really high. Really high,
very high quality bureau. And I was almost cheeky, but I decided not to do it, because I was going to ask them, you know how much I love numbers and analysis. I was actually going to almost about to say, Raleigh, what numbers do you track? What are your ratios? What are the things?
You should have asked that.
So maybe if anyone's watching, listening to this just now, if you would like us to bring more bureaus on like that, who can maybe share some of their numbers, because I think it's actually very useful for us as speakers to hear what those percentages are, because it gives us also a sense that, wow, we probably need a bigger deal flow than we possibly think in order to kind of close the type of numbers of business and the quality of and quantity of business that we want.
Absolutely. And actually, for a bureau, in terms of conversion rates, their conversion rates are lower than an individual speaker who gets an inquiry direct, because just as I've already said, you're competing with other bureaus. You're competing, and often a client, unless you have a really good relationship with them, they will often go to several, because for whatever reason, maybe they need an answer quickly and they're not sure that person's going to be available or around, so they go to several. Maybe they're trying to get a wider range. Maybe they're having to compete on price and having to, you know, sort of say, actually, I need, you know, or what's it called? Horse trading. Maybe they need to horse trade on price. So fascinating stuff. One of my favorite topics, as you know.
Absolutely, and lots of great questions. So thank you for sending in these questions. Thanks for everyone for attending today. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have enjoyed it, tell other people about it. Share this. You know, just let them know that this strange show with this guy with a funny accent and this very wonderful experience.
Mad hair today.
Talks about the speaking industry and the events industry. This is speakingbusiness.tv. If you go to speakingbusiness.tv, you can get all the show notes, the links that we've been speaking about today, as well as previous episodes. And I think that's us. So
that's us. So it's goodbye from me. You wanted to do that.
Goodbye from her.